Hello, and welcome to another session of I Do Really. Today, what I want to talk about is the will of God versus what you want. Let's hypothetically say that God is dealing with you about an individual to marry, but this person is nothing that you want. Would you still do it? It's a question that I'm basically asking everybody if they would do it or not. The person, I mean, whatever you do not want, but this person is the will of God for you, but they're not what you want. Would you do it? I remember I was at a church and they let me know about this woman that was told, you're going to get married, but you're going to marry an ugly man. I mean, she did marry him. He, by the time he died, he set her up really well. But that initial, because when I listen to people talk about, a wife or a husband, normally they're talking about someone that look good. They're beautiful, they're handsome, they got a nice body, they got all this stuff going on for them. We just gonna have this wonderful life together. But then when they actually turn around and marry someone, it's they're not all that. But because maybe you were just so excited, happy about getting married, someone asked you, she said yes, and then you got all this excitement going on. But it's like, but my thing is, would you marry someone that they are not what you want, but because God said marry this person, would you marry them? I have talked to a few people talking about the will of God, and everybody act like they want to marry the will of God. Now, one thing people do not realize nor understand is that the will of God, do you think everything's going to be sweet? Everything's going to be nice? I mean, it's going to be everything you want because it's the will of God? I think about, I take my mind back to the story of Joseph all the time. He saw later on what his brothers did. God was just working a situation out for him. But that was just for that. I think about even with, what's her name? I believe it was it Rachel? No, that was Rebecca when she married Isaac. And I remember how that the servant asked God, the one that you have for my master, let her do this and this and that. And she did that. But then she ended up tricking Isaac with Jacob to say that he was Esau because of what God told her. Never told Isaac about it, but God told her something that the younger, the elder was going to serve the younger. So she made a plan, okay. But yet and still in all, and I was talking to someone, and this person, they didn't really want to get married. If they was wanting to get married, but it was like, it'll be okay. But now they met this guy and they're about to get married, and she's highly excited about it. And I'm saying, okay, I think it's her second or her third relationship. But I had to ask her, because of what she told me. She said that she ain't worried about something. And I'm like, okay, so now that you're here, I said, how do you feel about this? She said, I like him, I love him, and I am in love with him. If you got those three, you doing real good. But what if the will of God, in the will of God, you never get a chance to fall in love with them because of the things that you're learning about them. And you just find yourself constantly flipping stuff to try to, okay. All right. You keep on flipping stuff, but then you ask yourself, where did you go wrong? Because even though the Bible tells us against comparing, but when one person is in the will of God and they are happy about it, and another person is in the will of God and they are very unhappy about it, I'll tell anybody right now, when you have situations like that, you're going to have to make that decision whether or not you're going to marry the will of God or the person that you're interested in being with. God could tell you, you could ask God, will this person make me a good spouse? And you tell them, how the person said it? They asked God, say, God, would this person make me a good spouse? And God said, yes, they would, but they are not my will for you. Okay, but then they get in the will of God and they are very unhappy. And it's like, should they had went for what would have been good for them? Or should they stick, well, you stuck now, with the will of God and you are not happy about it. Even though happiness is a choice. You have to choose to be happy, because can't nobody make you happy. But when you have people, when you're with someone, in order to go through the rigor of what's coming at you in a relationship, you need to have that heartfelt in love with that person, point blank. You need that, because if you marrying them because you like what you're looking at, okay, but what you're looking at is going to change. They may be 20 now, but when they get to 60, the stuff they was able to do in their 20s, they can't do it now. You may be lacking stuff now, but if you are in love with the person, you stick with them in spite of and through it all. When you just like somebody, you'll be like, I liked them then, but now all this stuff we're going through, I don't even like them now. I mean, you have a lot of people, they're going through in their relationships, and I'm like, okay, I had to take one lady and I had to back her up. Okay, let's work out in conversation what made it get to this point right here. So as we talked, she noticed things in the very beginning before they got married. And I asked her, okay, since this right here was going on before you got married, why'd you marry the person? Why'd you marry the man? Well, I thought he would change. You can't go on thinking thoughts, hope. You get to realize, I tell different people even about certain movies. If you watch certain movies will tell you how something's going to end up. If a man beating you now, he gonna beat you later. You know. And one thing is like, and I'm gonna keep on barking on this. If women would learn to stop giving up sex, don't get married off of your emotions. You know, that emotion. Oh, it feels great. Oh, it got to be. Oh yeah. But you got all this other stuff. And it's like, no. You slow it all down. You know, and when you marrying someone, you have to. I'm trying to stick with my subject here. My subject is, if you was presented with the will of God and something that you wanted, which one would you choose? Because everybody talking about the will of God. Let your will be done. But you got people, they're in the will of God and hating it. You got people in the will of God and loving it. And I'll tell anybody, from listening to people talk about the will of God for their lives, I'm not going to say don't do the will of God. I'm saying you got to make the decision on that. And whatever decision you make, always remember, you got to deal with that. You're going to have to deal with your decision. Whether in that marriage you happy or sad, you're going to have to deal with your decision. Just like I was just listening to someone talk about a young lady that, you know, she's about to marry a man, but, you know, there's things that she like people to do for her that he is not going to do. But she's about to marry this man. And it's like, okay, so if you want to, since you know that this certain thing you like, and you know he's not going to do it at all, you're going to have to live and deal with that, taking out all the excitement out of everything. You're going to have to deal with that. Why? Because you're going to marry this man. You know, and sometimes it's okay after you done said to someone that you will marry them, it is okay to turn around and say, you know what? I need to think about this a little further. Can we just take a little more time? You know, I don't care if you've already bought the marriage certificate. Maybe you should be like, but you're not really ready right now. You need, when you go and marry somebody, whether it is the will of God or someone that you want, you need to be marrying them with a clear mind. Because if your mind ain't clear, you're going to come back to this situation and just be like, in a daze, like, oh my God, I can't believe, you know, where did I go wrong? This and that. But I'm noticing that my videos now are not as long as they used to be, because now I'm just, you know, after hearing so much, you just be like, okay, just get the basic, get what they need to hear and cut it short and just leave it alone. Would you marry the will of God versus what you want? And what you want, you know this is what you want, but the will of God is not what you want at all. Would you do it? I'll tell anybody, whatever decision you make, you have to make that decision and deal with the consequences. If you are happy, excited, or no.